I have a sense that this is an experience that many of us will have a reference point for. Being asked how we are and the difference between feeling like that question has a quality of openness in the energy of that it leaves room and it leaves space for you to fill that with your response, for you to actually answer the question and to have someone's attention placed on you for a moment, and like a genuine curiosity. How are you? And we live in this kind of space with a pace of life and demands and stresses which mean that asking, "Are you okay? You all right?" is so flippant now. It's so careless. It's so lacking in the space to actually hold that question. It's like we're kind of afraid to really ask it. Like we're not really sure if we want to know how someone is. And then you think about places that you will return to in the week, businesses that you use, cafes that you like to go to, places that manage to create a space that feels welcoming, and that when you come in the door, there is an acknowledgement of you, your being, your energy, your presence, not in a way that is like, roll out the red carpet, nothing that's like exaggerated or over the top or performative, but just genuinely that there's an exchange, a mutual exchange there, and an interaction where you feel seen. And in fact, that is actually part of the thing that makes you go back and give your time and energy or loyalty to a business or a venue, whatever it is. And it's one of these ones that, unless you have had the experience of being asked that question in a way that creates a sense of safety and it creates a sense of, for this moment right now, I'm holding you and I'm making room to receive your response, unless you have a reference point for that, it would be very difficult for you to offer that to someone else. And that's another thing that I quite often think about because this is a subject that kind of appears periodically, and I guess that's partly to do with moments where you will have had interactions when you're out and about and you're either thinking, "Oh, that was really nice," or "that was a bit odd," or and quite recently, I think I was in a rush. I think I was kind of in a slightly stressed kind of space, and I arrived somewhere and started interacting with someone, and the first thing they said was, "How are you?" And the care with which they asked that kind of just gave me a moment for pause. It gave me a moment for, "Oh, let me just catch my breath," kind of thing. It was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?" It's like a pattern disrupt from being in this kind of energy that's tumbling forward, that it kind of doesn't have any capacity or room to take anything else on board. And some days that is how life is. This is not a kind of advocacy for, we must all be false with our asking, because that's also another element of it that actually makes this more pointed and makes it more obvious, because sometimes you have interactions where somebody's like, oh, how are you? Or whatever it is. Like, I'm exaggerating my tone there, but you think, actually, you don't care. There's something in the tone, there's something in the body language, there's something in the way that is presented that tells your nervous system, like, actually, this person is not safe to disclose to. This person doesn't feel friendly. And that is so juxtaposed to this other quality of feeling like you can soften into a greeting with someone and feeling at home, at ease, and actually that there is an opportunity for connection and co-regulation, which is, that's nice, and that's what, we're ultimately aiming for, I think, a lot of the time. And sometimes we find congruence with people, sometimes we don't. And the likes of that interaction that I'm speaking about the other week, for somebody to have given me a moment to just pause and be like, oh yeah, like, how are you? I think it took me by surprise, because I make the effort where possible, unless I'm having a really, really bad day, unless I'm like blinkers on and I don't want to speak to people, in which case, I wouldn't overstretch myself. Like, sometimes we have days where that is the case, but generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, my kind of default position is start kind of quite friendly and quite cheery, and I'm genuinely curious, how are you? And I think if you've been brought up that way, or if it's part of your cultural reference point, or you've had people in your life that have been there for you in that way and held that space for you consistently, whether that's family, whether that's friends, it becomes part of you. And actually, it's no effort to extend. It's like extending a hand of friendship, proverbially speaking, even just for that moment. It's extending a hand of humanity and connection for that moment. So actually, that only takes effort if you don't have a reference point there, and it's really, really hard, and connection feels really difficult, really unsafe. It's been damaged or fractured in some way, or if you're just feeling absolutely rubbish and you just don't have capacity. But as a rule, it's not something that I find difficult, but it kind of speaks to a landscape when you share interactions with people and you're kind of logging in your mind subconsciously, like, how many people were receptive to that? How many people reciprocated? Or like, how many people actually blocked that? Or how many people kind of it shifted something in them, or it offered them a moment of like, oh. And it's those moments of realization that you can really feel in real time, and you can sense a shift, and you can often see a shift in body language, facial expression, even just a marked energy shift. And it's moments like that that then make me realise, because it happened to me last week, that is maybe the first person in their day that has actually asked, "How are you?" and meant it, actually meant it. And I think a lot of interactions that I have, like out and about or like in public space with strangers, that is like a really, really common occurrence. And I just mean generally day to day, public transport, cafes, wherever. And we don't know what the circumstances are surrounding people's personal lives when they are strangers to us, but that exchange can shift the whole tone of your day. It really can. Equally, an exchange that doesn't feel so good, or a moment where somebody asks how you doing, but you feel like they are not, like their heart's not really in it, kind of thing. That can set you off, in a strange trajectory, because it's difficult not to internalize experiences like that and think, oh God, like what have I done? Is it something about me? So it's really interesting because these are like really subtle shifts. They're like degrees apart, literally. But within that spectrum, there are definitely indicators or moments or qualities that express themselves that help us to identify, like, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? Does this feel safe? Does this feel unsafe? Does this feel open and receptive, expansive, or does it feel kind of like constricted or blocking or defensive? And if we think about that from a kind of nervous system point of view, that is giving us information that is helping us to determine, how we respond or how we carry an interaction forward. But there is something in that I feel the times that we're in, the stress that people are under, and the kind of challenging landscape that, we're all collectively swimming in. This shapes so much of our foundation, or it even serves to rock the foundation of what is safe interaction and what is okay and what is approachable. Like when everything feels unstable or fragmented, or spaces feel generally volatile or intolerant, these all kind of feed into this pot basically that gets stirred up, and we are affected by it. We're affected by every interaction that we have, every exchange that we have, like even if we'd like to think that something hasn't touched us, definitely we are, and it's a cumulative effect as well. So I think there's a lot to be said for, given that things are heightened and given that things are, it's a stressful time to be alive. Even more so do these moments or opportunities for connection that are just rooted in a simplicity of asking, how are you? And leaving enough of a space for someone else to actually respond. even if that's to say, oh, I'm okay or fine, like fine is such a loaded word. Like, what does fine mean? But the tone will tell you everything you need to know. And it doesn't have to be a space that is opened to receive a barrage. And I think in a way a lot of people are maybe worried about that. They're kind of worried about, oh, if I open the doorway, then I'm going to get hit with lots of stuff that's nothing to do with me, or just, emotional energy, or someone's going to trauma dump on me, and, whatever your capacity is on any given day, you're titrating this experience for yourself. You have the power to curate that experience, and some days you're in a rush and you don't have the space to stand and chat to a neighbour that you've bumped into on the street for 10 minutes and have a kind of back and forth about the bins not getting taken away or something like that. Other days you do have time and space, or you're seeking that, you're seeking connection, or you see that someone looks like they would benefit from a moment. And it's this thing of, when we close ourselves off because of a fear or a position of trying to protect or defend against, we also close ourselves off from opportunities and moments that are beautiful and nuanced, and that couldn't be made up. They are for that moment, they're of that moment, and there's something really special about that. So it's, again, like, all of these things keep coming back to me about this idea of building capacity, and building capacity for meaningful relational exchange that feels good. And I think I have said this before, because I am reflecting on my own experience in a kind of like therapeutic trajectory. Once there has been a rupture, it takes time. It takes time to repair, absolutely. And but I think it's also good to remember that after a rupture, after a sense that relational exchange is not to be trusted, or is not good, it is possible for there to be a change. It is possible for there to be growth. It is possible for there to be development. It's possible for there to be a shift in your outlook, in your energy, in your capacity, in your attention, in your willingness, in your curiosity, in your appetite, actually, to be like, I know that there's more to life. There's more to life behind this, proverbial curtain or doorway that is kind of blocking. So I just wanted to share that, because it is possible, and there is beautiful things on the other side of difficult experiences as well, if we crack that door open, and build resource to be able to receive, and also to be able to give when we feel like we're in a state of overflow, and we have something to share with others that can make the world of difference, or it can change the trajectory of someone's day. And I think it's important not to forget that in the times that we're in.